Good morning, here we are, ready, waiting for the train to London to go mudlarking. And we're hoping to come back a bit later with 1,800 or maybe even 2,000 years of history. Let's see how we do. Okay, it's 7:30. It's Tuesday morning. Millions of people in London are going to work, but I'm going down to the Thames. We're actually standing on the course of the Walbrook, which is one of London's lost rivers. Okay, here are the steps down to the foreshore. It's not low tide yet, there's still a way to go, but we'll have a look and see what sort of things we can come across.
Hello guys, and welcome to my
There's lots of tile in here, you can see that, difficult to date that. There's a nice old brick here, whoops, feet getting a soaking here. There's a nice brick, there's no frog on that brick, so it's clearly an old one, 18th century perhaps. Luckily I'm wearing my boots, otherwise my feet will be getting a soaking from all the craft that are going by. Okay, well, we did suffer a bit of damage to the leg there, a bit of Thames water on that, but we'll live to fight another day. Here we've got, well, you can see a roof tile there with the hole for the peg. That's a bit more interesting. That's the bottom of a stoneware jug from Germany. It's got a bit of a frill base there, Rhineland stoneware, somewhere like Cologne, that's probably 16th century. Here's something I spotted before a couple of months ago. It's actually a piece of sculpted stone. It's very large, couldn't even shift it. I'm not going to take it home because it's just too heavy and big, but it's probably a medieval chunk of masonry there. You can just see the edge of that, a bit of a column or a column top. There's some stuff eroding out there. You get a good general view of the foreshore in this area. Tide's still going out, very large areas of erosion, so there's always new stuff turning up here. I've had some good finds here in the past, and beyond, towards that bridge in the distance, there's an area that throws up bits of Roman pottery quite regularly, so we're going to walk along there, see what we can pick up. Obviously hazards on the foreshore, be careful of sharps, broken glass, and obviously always leave yourself a way out. The tide does come in very quickly. No danger of that yet, it's still going out, and we haven't got the lowest tide yet. See what we can find. Okay, there's a lot of bone here. I've just spotted this little base. That's the base of a medieval drinking jug, very small one, a little glaze inside there, probably from Cheam. I'll show a picture of a complete one. There's also little bits of medieval pottery. You can see the bits in it there, splashed green glaze, bit of a handle that from a small jug. There's a nice rim from medieval pot, cooking pot. Got so many of these though I'm not going to take it with me. More tile. Animal bone. Obviously you can find carved bone and items on the foreshore which are always nice. Here's another jug handle there. Probably Tudor, I should think. Another nice bit of medieval pottery with the typical green copper glaze there from the base of a jug. Here. Down here you can see some of the massive timbers from previous embankments and wharves, and here's a wooden drain. Who knows how old that is, probably Tudor I guess. Bit of German stoneware, tiger glaze, salt glaze, that'd be 17th century from a Bartman jug, Bellarmine jug. More medieval there, copper glaze, bits in it. That's quite diagnostic there. That's medieval jug handle. You've got the slashing and the stabbing that they often put on these pieces, the thick pieces of pottery, so that they wouldn't explode in the kiln when the water vapour inside, water in the pottery in the pot, in the clay, heated up. Okay, here's a bit of borderware. It's got a little bit of wavy decoration on it, that's quite nice. This succeeded the medieval coarse borderware industry in Farnborough, Hampshire, Surrey borders. This is a finer ware, yellow glaze, you get green glaze, this is part of a plate or a shallow bowl, and this will date from 1500 to 1700, that sort of period. Red wares, very difficult to date unless they've got a diagnostic feature. That's got a splash of glaze in it, so I guess that's probably Tudor period, post-medieval, London red wares, fine red wares. Bit of German stoneware there. Something you get a lot on the foreshore are clay pipes. They see there's the heel of a pipe. Sometimes they have designs or letters from the maker's marks. There you get obviously a lot of pipe stems as well, broken stems, clay pipe stems with holes going through them. Here's one nearly complete bowl there, a bit broken at the top. No maker's mark sadly, but a small bowl. That's going to be 17th century, late 17th century. That one, the smaller the earlier they are. Going on, there's a typical clay pipe stem. You can see the hole running through it. And there's millions of these on the foreshore. Some Victorian ones have designs along the edge as well, which are nice. And sticking out of the mud here, just noticed a bit of slip wear, just a tiny bit of rim from a mug or a jug there. This is post-medieval, made in Essex, sometimes in Surrey as well, and traded into London, 17th century, sort of 1650, 1700, that sort of thing. And it's got trailed slip design on it, and you can get words and birds and animals and flowers, and they're always very nice. I wasn't really looking for metal artifacts, but I've just spotted down here, there's part of a lead seal, a cloth seal. Maybe that's got some sort of design on it when we clean it up. There's a two-part seal used to denote where cloth was coming from and the duty that's been paid and the quality of the cloth. So that's nice, we'll keep that one. Okay, we've just spotted our first bit of Roman there. I haven't picked it up yet. That's part of a Roman rim. It's not glazed, it's got a slip on it. Red wear, grey core there, where it hasn't really fired properly all the way through. Very thin, delicate, top of a jar there in colour-coated ware, so that's probably Oxfordshire, somewhere like that, that's come to London. So very happy with that. Here's a bit of black coated red ware, sometimes used to be called Cistercian ware, produced in Staffordshire and the Midlands, widely traded around there. Lots of tankards and small pots there, so that's going to be post-medieval, 17th century, maybe 16th century. Bottle here, wine bottle, with a very high kick to the base, probably going to be Victorian, or possibly Georgian. The necks are more diagnostic in regards to age. Okay, this little area of the foreshore, at once you can see, is covered in nails, and also among the nails you can see little brass pins, and this is a sort of area where if you get down and literally examine every square centimetre you might find small metal finds. There's a pin there. A lot of these are handmade pins with a coiled wire head there, and there's millions of these on the foreshore, and you find areas where they sort of clump together where the river's eroding them out, moving them around. These are probably any date from Tudor, possibly medieval even, right up to the Industrial Revolution. In Tudor times particularly, in the ruffs that people wore and the clothes people wore, they were held together with thousands of pins, so these are a common find. There's another one there. Oops. Little bits of metal, rusty bit of iron there. We'll have a quick look here and see if we can find anything interesting. I'm a great fan of Delftware, which is tin glazed earthenware, and there's a couple of bits here. Normally it's a very fragile glaze, so it gets a bit battered and crazed. Often a yellow earthenware body with a white tin glaze there, that's part of a handle. This bit's a little bit better, I have already turned it over, and there's a bit of blue and white decoration on there. That's going to be 1650, 1750 was the period of popularity of Delftware. But lovely to find a large base with a nice design on it. That was what I always dream about. Well, I didn't find anything interesting in the first lot of nails, or the second lot, or the third lot, but now I think I've got a token there, which is just sitting on the top of that. So I'll just pick it up and have a look. Looks like, oops, it's got SI, well, or possibly IS, and device there, maybe a tower or some such. So a little lead token, 17th century, 18th century probably. So I don't find many of those, so I'm very happy with that indeed. There's another bit of sculpted stone here, probably from a doorway or a window. But I'm not feeling strong enough to take that home, a bit too big. There's a rather attractive bit of Victorian pottery there. Later pottery is glazed evenly on both sides and there's no obvious bits in it, but that's a pretty piece. Some more blue and white there, very common. Victorian, late Georgian. A bit of porcelain, which sort of looks more like glass almost, very highly fired, and small fractures like glass at the edges. A bit of old porcelain there. Here's a nice early pipe. Nothing on the heel, sadly, but it is complete, and that's a much smaller bowl, so that'd be early 17th century, sort of 1620, 1640, so even before the English Civil War, so that's nice. We like that. Over here there's the top of a wine bottle, and you can see the neck there. Sometimes they had string to hold them up in water, big tubs of water to keep them cool. So it's a string line there. City of London gum and cigarette bin. I'm really tempted to take that home because I'm such a hoarder, but I must resist. My wife would not be impressed. We did have a look at this bit of medieval pottery. It's got beautiful colour glaze with browns, greens and yellows, but we're going to leave that. Oh, another bit of medieval rim there, very squared off rim, very typical of cooking pots, medieval period. Okay, here's a bit of Midlands purple. So this is like a stoneware, distinctive purple glaze, sometimes called butter potware, because butter from the Midlands was imported into London, shipped to London in these pots. These date anything from the late medieval right up to the 17th and 18th centuries. But you can see the stoneware, very, very hard fabric there. There's a little pipe clay piece of pottery. I've not really any idea what that is. It seems to have some sort of decoration on it, so I'm going to take that and do some research on that bit. Okay, this is just about as low as the tide gets. It actually drops below this embankment, maybe about twice a month. There's the bridge there. Sweet ground. See large areas of the foreshore exposed for searching. Here we're in a different area where I've made some decent finds in the past, and there's a lovely bit of German stoneware there from a Bellarmine, base of a handle, lovely tiger glaze, salt glaze piece, so I think I'll keep that one. Here we are, look, a tiny bead, difficult to date. Post-medieval, I would guess. A bit further on, you can see a little bit of medieval pottery with just some splashes and lines of glaze, just little pits where the glaze has stuck to it there, quite pretty. It is a classic example of borderware. That is the foot of a pipkin. A pipkin is a free-footed little pot which you put into the fire to cook, and you can see it's sooted on the outside where it's stood in the fire, yellow glaze on the inside. 1500, 1700 borderware industry from the Surrey-Hampshire borders. Thing I love to find, unfortunately it's not a bigger fragment, but there is the corner of a medieval tile. You can just see the design. They pressed in with a wooden form into the clay and then filled in with this other colour, yellow coloured clay, to produce medieval floor tiles for high status buildings, palaces, churches, cathedrals and the like, and that not very well fired on the inside, typical medieval. That would be 14th century. They normally call them Penn tiles, from Penn, the town where a lot of them were made, so I'm pretty happy with that one. It's a bit difficult to film here, so I found a few finds which I'll show you later. The clippers, Thames clippers, are making a lot of wash and I'm having to look out, but there's a nice bit of medieval jug handle there with the stabbing and the slashing there in the rim. That's going to be 1350 to 1450. And this bit of medieval cooking pot rim, you can see it's got a seating for a lid there, and this makes it a bit later, so 1450 to 1480, also coarse borderware, I guess. Even older, I guess, that is a fossil. What do you think? Fossil coral, perhaps? Maybe. Okay, tide's coming back in now, so it won't be long before we have to go back home. I've just spotted this little lead thing here. Looks like part of a cage. Might be part of a lead toy. Needs a bit more research, but an interesting find anyway. Well, it doesn't look much, a bit of grey wear here, but the temper, or what is added to the clay to help in the firing, is shell. So it's shell tempered, these little white bits of shell, which means it's very early medieval. So this could be from 950 to 1150, 1200, that sort of age, so good old age on it, we like that. There is another bit of shell tempered pottery. So that's very early medieval London ware. Again, Saxo, Norman, more Norman than Saxon. Interesting. I've just seen this clay object. That is the base of some sort of pot, maybe even the base of an amphora. I don't really know. I shall have to do some research. That's possibly Roman. If you do find significant finds, it's always a good idea to record them. On the Portable Antiquities Scheme website, you can get your finds liaison officer to record them for you as well and identify them. But it's great to secure where you find it. I always make a note of where on the foreshore I find things, and then there's a record of our heritage that everyone can enjoy. Another bit of German stoneware. This, you can see that sort of brown marks from ash in the kiln, very light brown dusting, very indicative of stoneware from Siegburg in Germany on the Rhine, and that will date to about 1450 to 1550 from a Jakoberkanner, which is a little drinking jug. Millions of these were imported into London in the late medieval and early post-medieval period. Here's another bit of medieval pot. This is the base, and that's very distinctive as well, where they've thumbed the base all around just to give it stability. Sometimes you can even see the fingerprints of the potter and sometimes the thumbnail impressions inside. But that's very distinctive. Again, 14th century, 1350, 1450, 14th or 15th century. Another little bit of 17th or late 16th century German stoneware. The Bellarmine, the top of the rim there from a Bellarmine. Unfortunately not the whole face, but just an eyebrow there of Cardinal Bellarmine, apparently. His face there on German wine jug. Okay, it's 11 o'clock. We've had good 3.5 hours down on the Thames foreshore. We found a nice range of artefacts. We found a few bits of Roman pot and some nice Norman fragments and a lot of medieval. My favourite find of the day, a bit of the medieval face pot, which is lovely, love that. And through into the post-medieval period, pipes and some post-medieval pottery. So I hope you've enjoyed coming with me on this trip into London's history. And please do check out my other videos, comparethepot.com, of some of my finds from the foreshore to illustrate ceramic history. I'm Richard, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks, bye. Okay, we're back home in leafy Surrey, and several days have passed and I've washed my finds and I've drawn them and I've recorded the find spots so that when I come to put the important ones or the interesting ones on the Portable Antiquities Scheme website, I'll have all the information to hand. So I'm just going to go through a few of the pieces that I found. in a little bit more detail. They've washed up and I've had a bit of time to research some more aspects of them, and also show you the couple of finds where my lovely daughter over-recorded some of my video and some of the things that I found there. So we'll have a look at some of these finds right now. Well, we were lucky enough to travel back 1,800 years into London's past. We did find a couple of Roman pieces, one of which is on the video. We also found a bit of greyware Roman rim there, typical sort of Alice Holt type industry. That would be 3rd or 4th century there. The round rim again. Roman pots have round rims, or as one of my tutors said, Roman pots have wound whims, whereas medieval ones often squared off. Found a lot of medieval pottery, typical coarse borderware from the Surrey-Hampshire borders. These from pots, from a bowl there. These date from 1350 to 1450 and are very common in London. At some sites, archaeologically, 25% of all pottery is borderware, coarse borderware, I mean. My favourite find of the day was the piece of medieval face jug here. Unfortunately, the finding of it got wiped when my daughter grabbed the video camera and over-recorded some of my film, but I have forgiven her. This is probably from Kingston. It's quite a fine fabric, and that's the spout of the jug, which forms the nose. You've got a pellet and an impressed dot there, which is the eye, and down here you've got a forked beard. You can see the 2 forks there with some decoration decorating the side of the beard there. That's going to be late 12th century, early 13th century, and that is a lovely find and definitely one for the portable antiquities scheme. Here's another piece which I didn't film finding, the base of a pot, very smooth green glaze inside, quite a fine fabric outside. This is going to be very late medieval or early Tudor, like a lobed cup, something like that, from the borderware industries, coarse borderware. They call it Tudor green in some places. Interestingly though, from a sort of forensic evidence of firing and ceramic history, it's got a little bit of red pottery adhering to it, just showing that white clay pots and red clay pots were being fired in the same kiln there in the Surrey-Hampshire borders. Another bit of borderware which I found was this lug from a costrel. I found this when the Thames clippers were churning up the foreshore and didn't really have opportunity to film and mudlark at the same time. This is a lug from a costrel, and the string would have passed through there to hold it up. Here's a picture of the complete item so you can see what it looked like. Another find which I didn't film, I've no idea really what this is. The rim is here, and then you've got these deep grooves here. I guess it might be some sort of press. Not sure of the date, maybe medieval or early post-medieval. If anyone knows what that was for, then please let me know. The token which I found, I think that's probably a picture of a crown on that side. I thought it was lead when I picked it up, but actually it's too light for that, and it's got a sort of iridescence to the metal, so I think it might be a tin or pewter token, which makes it a bit more interesting. Another small metal find. These turn up quite frequently. It's a bit of typeface. It's a little letter E there on the end, and in 1917 someone threw, I think it was 1917, someone threw a whole tray of typeface into the Thames so that no one could use it again, and so these do turn up fairly regularly. Interesting. The lead basket type ware that I picked up. Researching this, I think it might be part of the back of a toy buffet, which is a sort of sideboard, a piece of furniture, and would have been produced in the 16th century. Here's a photo of a more complete one from the Museum of London. You can see it's similar. There is a little bit of faint decoration on one side. So the jury's out on that one, but I think it must be from something similar in age and a toy, which is nice. And what I thought might be a Roman amphora base is actually made in the same fabric and from the same region as some amphorae, but I think it's probably a bit more recent in that I think it's the base of an olive jar. These were made in Spain and widely exported to London, and they date from the 16th century, some from the late 15th and going on into the 17th century as well, in various types. You can see the coils of clay they've used to make that. And these were carried on ships in the Spanish Armada and during the early settlement of the New World and South America, and so widely exported from Spain. So an interesting find. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed having a look at some of my finds, and we'll be going to the Thames again, and I'll take my video camera with me and see what we can turn up. Thank you for watching. Bye.